Alright, hello and welcome to the next Nix Hour. We got a really nice tip last time about some microphone settings to make the S's a bit less pronounced. I didn't get to that yet, but I hopefully will and for next time. So today we'll look at fetchers and output sizes. Kind of a very specific topic, but this issue here in the Nix Hour repository. You can also open issues if you want something to be looked at in the future. Request something like that. And so the problem here is that fetch sleep exceeds Hydra output size limit. So the Hydra on here, hydra.nexus.org, well, that fetches stuff, of course, but sometimes the output is too big. And well, I guess I'm not sure if we can see one right here. But if we, let me actually go into like the Hydra source. I believe I've seen this somewhere in there. It's 3 gigabytes. Can we actually, something like that? Max memory size, no, that's not quite it. Min free GB, no, memory size. Is it this one? Could be that one. Q runner. I'm not sure if that's it. 1, 2, 5. No, not quite. Anyways, somewhere in here, there should be a 3 gigabyte limit. And so when you fetch something that is larger than that, your build will just fail. And so that's the issue that was reported on Nix packages here. And in that issue, there's a long discussion. I didn't look through it all. But yeah, we can see here an example. CAD libraries. I mean, could we try that? Although that's 5. I didn't really want to fetch something that large. But we can maybe fetch something smaller. Like let's try. So let's say, let's go into Nix packages. And then do something like what has a decent size, like Firefox maybe? Firefox.source. I guess we need Firefox unwrapped because Firefox 1 is wrapped. All right. Again, that's 500 megabytes. That I wish I had a progress bar right now. And this up here, that might take like a couple seconds. But yeah, so what do you do if that happens? Well, so the solution that is mainly being discussed here is to kind of recompress the fetch output. So why would that be necessary? That is because if you compress something, you might get different results. So how do we show that? Well, let's go maybe into Nix packages itself, or let's pick like any, we need some kind of constant directory that doesn't keep on changing. So maybe let's go into the Nix Hour repository. To code, let's make one for 72. And I'm just going to create something here, and let me do like a touch or echo foo file. Okay. And we want to compress this file. Now I'm going to do that with tar, I suppose. So tar allows you to compress a directory into a single file. Or not compress, it's kind of bundle a directory into a single file. And now I want to get a version of tar. Let's actually get some default.nix in here. Actually, let me copy it from a template. Default.nix into here. Let's see, what do we have here? Let's get, we only really need a shell here. All right, and we need some sources. I'm just going to copy these. All right, and let's go into the shell. Oh yes, and I saw the repack. We'll try to get to that in a bit. On the question, this limit exists in case some package just keeps dumping into the output. Um, I'm actually not entirely sure why it exists. That is a good point. I guess at some point you need to set a limit. It might be, hmm, maybe we'll try to look into the address source a bit more later. See if we can figure out why it exists. But okay, so let's try to get some tar in here. And actually, packages.makeshell is based on standard env, which comes with a tar. So we should be able to witch tar, and that is already kind of a pinned version. All right. Now, can I figure out the tar command? We have dash C. Okay, I guess I used something like that before. Okay, let's do dir.tar. Okay, compress the dir. All right, and we have that now. But now let's get the hash of that dir file, dir.tar file. Okay, that's the hash. And now let's try using a different tar version. I'm gonna do that by, let's actually do npins name Nix packages. Let's get like an older Nix packages in here, like Nix OS, I don't know, 1709. All right, let that fetch for a second. Okay, let's exit the Nix shell. Let's re-enter the Nix shell. And by the way, my Nix shell is an alias to, like, oh, make shell didn't exist back then. That's fair. But yeah, my Nix shell is an alias to dash command C shell. It doesn't work sometimes, so I need to unalias that sometimes. Like if you want the bash commands from a derivation in there. Anyways, make shell didn't exist back there, so well, I guess that's a interesting case from the past. Let's just use make derivation that will have existed and package wasn't there. Native build inputs should work. I also think we also need a name shell. Not sure if we need anything else. Let's try it. Next shell. Oh, npins didn't exist back then. That is fair. Let's get rid of that too. All right. Fetching some old derivations here. And hopefully this can actually demonstrate. So I'm going to use this tar version now, which tar, this is like a, right, 2017. So that's like 7 years old. And we're going to see if it results in the same thing. Dir old.tar and sha, well, this was the first one. Dir old, it is the same. Well, I was hoping it would be different. Or is it? It might have been gzip actually. Yeah. Okay. Let's compress this well. Now I need to figure out how to actually do that. Let me briefly look into here. We want to. Is it gzip? Yeah, gzip dash z. Okay. So I'm gonna do add z tar.gz. Okay, now that has become a whole bunch smaller. It's impressive how this is that much smaller. Okay, now we're going to, well, I should have really used 2 Nix packages here. Let's do that. We're gonna add Nix packages. Well, now we don't have npins available. Okay, that sucks. Okay, let's just get it like this. And then I'm going to do npins add Nix packages new. Okay, the new one, that will be 2311. All right, and any second now. The old one will be 1709. Well, we have that twice now. That's fine. Move Nix packages. Okay. Now I want to get, let me actually make these operable here. I want this one to be the default, sources dot next package is new. Sure, next package is new, next package is old. Okay, next package is new here. And then I guess let's have oh well, now I'm getting kicked by not having flakes here because we can only have kind of one shell in, well, I guess no, actually that's not true. If you use Nix shell dash A, we can pick something else. So maybe let's do that. That's kind of fun. So let's do like pass through here. Say that old shell. Yeah, that should work. We're just going to copy this and put this in here. Okay, this is getting a bit messy, but it should be fine. So that's the old shell, and in the old shell, we're going to use the old mix packages. I would not commit this in production, but for now it's fine. All right, packages old. Okay, shell old, shell new. So now we can do Nix shell. This should get the new one. It has to fetch it first. Yes. Let's see, this is taking quite a while to demonstrate, but I hope we can make it work. I never tried this before, so it's going to be a surprise. Okay, this should be the new one. So we have, do we have any evidence of this being the new one? We do not. That's fine. Or I guess the versions are kind of evident. Okay, tar, so this is a new one. And now let's do Nix shell dash A old. Oh, old not found. Oh, is it? That's never really used this before, so I guess it might use the default on Nix. Yeah, actually. So old would be here. It's kind of prettier. Yeah. Okay, now let's try tar. This is the old one. Okay, let's remove the dir.tar. We don't need that anymore. Also the dir old.tar. Okay. Now they have the exact same size, so that might not actually have changed anything. Oh, they do have a different hash though. Okay, so that's good news. Because they do represent the same directory, but now this, you can imagine this be happening on GitHub side. So when GitHub compresses their tarballs, and they provide these for all the repositories. So like for Nix packages, if you go to code, download zip. Yes, okay, I mean, this is a zip. They also provide the tarballs. Those might have different hashes depending on which version of tar they're using and gzip. But in the fetchers in Nix, we don't want this to have an influence. And so what Nix actually wants to hash is not the file itself, but rather the contents of the directory, and Nix uses the nar archive for that. So if you go Nix store, I think, is it documented in here? Add, not quite. Nix store add. Or is it, I guess it's a Nix hash actually. Yeah, or Nix base hash also works. In here we have the hash is computed over a serialization of each path. Dump of the file. This allows directories, blah, blah, blah. The dump is in the nar format produced by Nix store -- dump. Okay, well, I guess it's here apparently. And so if we look at the fetchers, yeah, actually, let's do a fetch now. So we're going to fetch old, and in here we can do packages. Well, old, new doesn't really matter here. So we're just going to use a new one. Packages.fetch zip. So it says fetch zip, but actually it supports all the, like, a whole bunch of archives. I'm going to use fetch zip. As a URL, I believe we can use something like this to fetch from local file. To string of the dear old. Okay. Oh yeah, let's look at fetch PyPy if we can. The hash, well, I guess hash is the new convention. We can leave that empty. Now let's go into the Nix Hour, code 72, and try building the old one. All right, and it should have complained about, oh, couldn't open file. That is a good point, yes. I think we just need this. This way it imports it into the store, and actually we can, let's just do a lib.debug.trace val. Is that it? Yeah, we can see here the value that this evaluates to. And of course, the sandbox can't access this path. By using toString on a path, you turn it into the actual path in your file system. If you don't use toString and just interpolate the path, it imports the file into the store. So if we do that, we get file next door. Again, the sandbox can access that. Now we get the hash. And so this hash is the hash over the, well, we haven't seen that yet, but that's the hash over the NAR archive. So even though we're going to now copy this and fetch the new one, dear new, I'm going to remove this hash to make sure we don't accidentally reuse the same one. Fetch new. And as you can see here, it is the exact same hash. So what the fetcher did underneath, and I'm going to open another window right here. We're going to Nix packages. We're going to go into fetch zip. Fetch zip right here. Okay, this is fetch zip. Actually, it's, oh, it just defers to fetch URL. That is fair. So fetch zip is just fetch URL, and in the post fetch, it does an unpack of the file. Okay, and so this is unpack cd rename blah blah blah. So it moves some things around so that at the start of here, in I believe in the output or in the temp dir, temp file name. Well, anyway, so it removes the fetched file that fetch URL fetches, it unpacks it, and then puts that unpacked directory into the output. So move unpack dir into output. And so yeah, that's in the output. And because it's a fixed output derivation, well, we can see that here. If we go to fetch URL, we should see that. So some arguments are propagated to fetch URL. Every argument except these here. So if we go into fetch URL, here we have the hash here somewhere. Here's the hash. Okay, that gets put through a bunch of conversion stuff and things. In the end, it ends up here in output hash. Where is that? Output hash. Oh, is it this? Hash underscore? Oh yeah, okay, it's here. So we end up with these three properties. We have output hash algo, that is like SHA-256. We have the hash itself, and we have the mode. And so depending, well, the recursive one, that's the NAR format, and the flat one, that's the file itself. So if it's flat, that's the same as running like the SHA-256 sum command on these. It's actually, we could also try that out. So if we do a fetch URL here instead. And let's get rid of the old hash for now. I'm gonna do dear old. I'm just gonna copy this one directly into here. And I believe I need to do this. I actually don't think this hex format is supported, but let's see. Fetch old. And that actually did work. Let's just verify. Well, I mean, it did work. It didn't have the hash before, I believe. Set that to empty. Let's try it out again. Well, now we need to convert between the two. Let's do that. I'm gonna get the hex hash. I'm gonna use Nix hash. Let's do type SHA-256 to base 32. Although we actually want to base 64, which is supported. All right. And yeah, we get the exact same one we're getting from here. So fetch URL, if you just fetch a single file, we'll use the flat hashing method by default, which is the same as just a normal SHA-256 sum. No nar format is involved. But if you use fetch zip, it will unpack it and then serialize the nar and figure out the hash from that. And so nar specifically removes kind of all the information that you don't want to end up being in the hash or influencing the hash. So that's like, actually let's next door dump. Dump, is it shown in here? Oh, yeah, here it is. Nar archive is like a tar or zip archive, but it only contains the information that Nix considers important. For instance, no timestamps, permissions are not there. There is the executable bit. Yes, canonical. The directory entries are sorted, stuff like that. Okay, and so yeah, fetch zip needs to kind of unpack that and then make sure that that is hashed. But now let's go back to this issue and let's see what the problem here is. So fetch zip unpacks it so that the result gets hashed and it's always the same hash. So we don't need to update these hashes as the tar versions and so get updated. But now there's a problem that it becomes too big. So one suggested solution in here is to have a repack option to fetch URL. Here, repack. There's even a PR for that already, and we can maybe take a brief look at that. The question is, fetch zip depends on CA derivations, but aren't they rather new? No, so CA derivations are related, but a bit different. So these are fixed output derivations. With fixed output derivations, you need to give the hash beforehand. And so if you don't have a hash, you need to build it once, get the hash or get the hash from somewhere else, and like insert it into the code so Nix knows about the hash beforehand. CA derivations, with CA derivations, you don't need to know the hash beforehand. They can, and I think they also can't depend on the internet. Yeah, fixed output derivations can fetch stuff. CA derivations, well, it's like an Euler diagram where I think you have an overlap. But yeah, this wasn't a great explanation. But fixed output derivations existed before, can access network, need to provide the hash beforehand. CA derivations, they just make sure that if the result ends up being the same, further derivations depending on that don't need to be rebuilt again. Yeah. Okay, but yeah, so repack, there's a PR down here, fetch zip add repack option. So let's take a brief look here. So closes that. Implement a workaround for high-res output limit. Okay, currently requires one to override the name attribute of the fetcher to end in GZ. I cannot get the fetcher to do that automatically when repack equals true. This is required for make derivation to recognize the source as compressed. Did not attempt to make derivation recognize compressed sources by their magic number. Yeah, I think if we look into make derivation, let's go into standard env. Oh, that's not standard env. That's stdenv generic. If you go into setup here, I think it's default unpack. Down here, yeah, we can see it's based around this. So it just looks at the file ending. It doesn't look at any magic numbers in the file. And so here specifically, if it ends in tar, it's going to run the tar unpack command. So that's why that is necessary. Okay, already a brief preview. But yeah, let's look at how that's implemented. So we looked at the fetch zip code before. Adds a repack option, which after it did the unpacking, it's going to do a repack. So it creates a temporary directory. It moves everything from out into there. And then it does a tar. Oh, actually, yeah, I'm now wondering if that's actually going to work. Because it's going to tar recompress this with, okay, it sets the M time. It sets the mode. It sorts by name. So yeah, because like different tar versions could kind of pack that differently. Yeah, so I'm actually not sure if that's going to work, because in future versions of Nix packages, you might have different tar version, and we kind of get into the same problem again. Now, I'm not sure if we can guarantee that works unless we use a kind of deterministic way to compress this in some way, or like standards that doesn't change. We can, let me think for a second. Tar. So tar just bunches it together. gzip is the actual problem, right? Use compressed program, gzip no name. Yeah. Actually, let me briefly write a review here. And yeah, and we have evils right here in the chat as well. Maybe they can also reply and see if this is actually correct. So I'd say here, and right, this is kind of how I do a review. Wouldn't this cause the same problems? The problem of ending up with different hashes as the gzip version changes over time. This is also the reason why we need to use fetch zip and can't just use fetch URL for compressed archives, since the kind of distributor makes it doesn't make it reproducible. All right, yeah. I've suggested that tar command. I did not consider tar on gzip version changes. Yeah, that would be good to consider. I'm not sure if there is, well, I guess what would work, but I'm not sure I like that idea, is to essentially pin the gzip version in here and say like, we're always going to need to use the same gzip version. And I mean, I guess that could work. Like you could do something like this, where you go into top level all packages.nix and say, let's go to gzip. And we'd introduce like a separate version. Say like, this is the pinned one. And then in here, we'd do something like set the version. Or yeah, version info, something like this. And then I'm not sure, maybe something like something like this. Let's say we have the version in here as a default, 1.13. Let's also give the hash equals this one down here. I'm not sure if I like this solution. I feel like this needs to be explored a bit more. But if we did something like this, then version info dot version version info dot version. Oh, not Vergio info, right here. Version info dot hash, kind of something like this. Is there any other mention of the version down here? There is not. Right, and if we had this, we could say, right, we could actually just copy this part here. Go back to the all packages.nix. Go in here, say version info equals this. Okay. And now we need to comment here, explain why we pin it, and that it should never be updated because it breaks fetch zip. Okay, now in fetch zip, oh, can we actually do that? So if we go into fetch zip here, default.nix, there's only unzip in here. I think gzip actually comes from the standard env. Let's go into standard env. We're jumping around in the Nix packages a bit today. I think that's fine. I think, where's common path? I think that's where it comes from. Yeah, common path, there is GNU-tar and gzip. That's where the gzip from standard env comes from. But I believe we can override that by providing one in the native build inputs. So what we could probably do is to fetch zip. If we need reproducible compression, could we use nar? I think nar is only it's like tar. It doesn't compress anything. It just bunches up a directory into a single file. So I don't think it would help here. But yeah, gzip, let's just briefly try this. Native multiputs with unzip. I think we can probably just add it in here. Gzip pinned. But yeah, this would be kind of hard to test and verify that it actually works. And I'm also not sure if that covers it entirely. And actually, let me go check out this PR. Recently I learned there's GHCO for checking out PR. A bit quicker than GHPR checkout than a number. We stash my local changes, check it out. Yeah, let's briefly check out the, well, okay, let's, yeah, I'm not sure if I can actually test this very well right now. It's dash pop. Okay, we have gzip pinned. I mean, let's maybe give it a quick try. So, let's see. Can we? Well, we need to change our packages to this other one, which I guess does work. But anyway, let's do something else. I do want to quickly just verify that next door, dump the nar format doesn't actually compress anything, and it's just like concatenation of files essentially. Next door dump, that just dumps a path as a nar archive. Okay, written as standard output. So if we do dump and let's say dir, and we dump that into dir.nar. Okay. dir.nar, so it's not very big. Can we, what if we just cat that? Well, I guess that probably means it doesn't compress it. How could we even verify that it would compress it? Well, I guess we could do something like file foo, foo, foo. I guess if that does get repeated in the end, it's probably not getting compressed. So let's print that. And yeah, we have the foo, foo, foo directly in here. So I don't think it does any compression in there. So yeah, that wouldn't really help in this case. We do need some compression to actually make it smaller, to make the whole repack idea work. Yeah. Okay, but I think we kind of looked at that. I do want to consider something else though. What if instead of repacking this, what if we split the fetch thing into multiple outputs, which we could then later kind of reconstruct together? So let's try that. Like, what if we had a function which kind of works like this, where we what would it be? It would be like a fetch. Well, it would kind of need to act within the derivation that actually does the fetching. Let's do fetch zip split maybe. And so in here, let's just try to make something very basic work. A URL, a hash. We're going to use packages.fetch zip underneath. URL stays the same. Hash probably also stays the same, yeah. Oh, actually, hash. Does that work? How does the hash, can we even have fixed output derivations that have multiple outputs? That is a very good question. Let's try, well, we need something with multiple, like with multiple entries. Let's say in our directory here, we have file and we have another file, or through another file. And we want this to split this into two outputs, one for each file. Let's see. So well, actually, let's not write the function itself here. Let's just do a test here. Let's say packages.fetchZip. I think fetchZip also allows us to, yeah, let's look into it here. I think there's also here, yeah, an extra post-fetch. I'm not sure which one we'd want in this case. So extra post-fetch runs, well, this is from the peer. But both of these kind of run at the same time. I guess they're overwritten by other parts, and so the first one is probably set by some fetcher, and the second one isn't. So let's overwrite the second one. So extra post fetch, and now let's do something like, well, let's get the URL in here, and well, we need to first compress it, right? Let's do tar. This, I'm not sure which one this is. I don't think it matters at this point. So the old one we have kind of recompressed. Let's get the hash. Well, let's set the hash to empty for now. Let's just see if that works. So let's do ls-lla out. Let's just build this. Let's see what it does. Build the test. Okay, so it has a hash. I guess let's, well, no, we have the output here. Okay, so out has currently two files, and we want to split these into separate outputs. So what if we just add some outputs here, one for file and one for another file? Okay. And what if we just run it like this? Oh, unexpected output arguments, outputs. Oh, so fetch URL. Args. So this is where outputs should go. And this should get propagated to fetch URL. Okay, outputs. That is indeed not an argument to fetch URL. So it looks like either nobody ever tried this before, or it is actually not supported. Because I also can't really imagine how it would work, because we'd need kind of 2 hashes for the separate outputs. There's no real way to specify that. But let's try to hack around it. What if we do this and say override attrs? That's a way to directly override these derivation attributes. We're going to set outputs. I believe we probably still need an output just because the existing code kind of assumes that it exists. But we're going to try just adding the extra ones. All right, let's see. Oh, here we go. Okay. Nix apparently detects that. Multiple outputs are not supported for fixed output derivations. So that doesn't work. What we could instead do, and this would be kind of wasteful though. So we could just say, okay, we're just going to fetch one file. And so instead of, well, let's do like a temporary directory, which was also used before. Make temp-d, let's do something like this. Move the entire out, well, out to temp. Kind of like this. And then let's move temp file to out. Just kind of essentially select a single file. So if you have like, I think this might have been used for, oh yeah, the nerd fonts in Nix packages. Go look at those nerd fonts. Let's see what they do. So nerd fonts is a kind of really big font package, and there's like many different ones. And I guess in this case, they provide separate tarballs for each of the separate fonts. Okay, I feel like it might have worked differently in the past where there was only a single tarball. I guess this does simplify the whole thing. I'm not sure if we have a good idea of the history here. Well, yeah, anyways. Okay, but yeah, this would be a way to, so you could say select individual files and then run that for each file. So you kind of create separate derivations for each file. Super wasteful because you need to fetch the entire, like, in this case, like, I don't know, 2 or 1 or 2 gigabyte thing multiple times for each separate file. But maybe you only need it twice. You could make like somehow split it into half the files and the other half of the files so that each half is below the 3 gigabyte limit. It's super hacky. I'm not a fan of this, but it would be a possibility. Yeah, but in this case, this doesn't work, so multiple outputs with fixed output derivations don't work. Boost bad format string. What is that about? Cannot stat file. Oh, does it try to like build it or something? Let's remove the temporary directory here. Probably tries to build it somehow. I'm not sure what this is about. Oh, No, I'm actually not sure what this is about. Move file out. Oh, it's probably because it's turned into a... is it because it's not a directory anymore? Out. Okay, let's make it first. No, I've seen this error before, but it's such a bad error. Move cannot stat. No such file or directory. Oh, I see. Okay. I think this should probably fix it. Yes. Okay. Bit hacky, this code. Don't copy this. But just to show how it could work in theory. All right, yeah. And so now we only have a single file here. Yeah, so this could work. I also want to take a look. We had the question of like, why does Hydra have this limit at all? So I want to go and do some more digging. We tried this before. Let's grep for max. Oh, actually, I grepped for that before. I saw it in the history. Max output size. Here it is. Oh, I would have never found this. 2, and then shift that by 2 and inside and shift has. So that's like, wait, 2 and shift that. So this is 2 times that. Is that 2? So that's megabyte or megabit, and then this is gigabit. So this would be 2 gigabits or so. Why not 3? Interesting. Let me pull, yeah, that's the up-to-date one. Max output size. Oh, I know what this is. So this is the Hydra source itself, but there's also a configuration for the Hydra builder on hydra.nixos.org, which is different. And I think that's probably declared in the infra repo. Let's go in here and check that out. So we found the configuration option down here. Here, well, it's max output size. Max output size, and here we go. Here it is. Max output, max output size. Yeah, here it is, 3 gigabytes. So this was increased from the default. Now let's see if we can do some git blaming here and figure out where this was set. Max output size. Here, git show this. Increase max output size. So let me grab the commit. Go to commit slash one from here. Let's look at the PR. Potential solution for, yeah, current GNOME ISO exceeds Hydra output limit. Let's see, just a tad bit bigger than 2 gigabytes. So that would be a bit more for this one. This one has 5.5 gigabytes. Let's see if we can get any clue for why this was necessary. Suggesting this PR as a short-term solution. Well, it's still here after, well, 2 years. Could be worse. Okay. Option to increase output size for specific jobs would be nice. Yes. Yeah, okay. We have no clue in here. Let's go into, let's do some more digging in the Hydra source code. Max output size. Let's actually do some digging through the issue tracker on Hydra. Max output size. Output limit exceeded. There's some more issues. Or let's do it on GitHub. Why not? GitHub has a really nice interface for going back through history. So I'm going to view git blame for this line. Then I'm going to click on buffer size, memory tokens limits. This does not look like the right change, so I'm going to click on this button, which gets me back to the previous one where this line was modified. And max output size. Yeah, here it is. This just changes the variable name, so let's go back one more time. Max dash output size. Make out the output size limit configurable. Okay. Default is 2 gigabytes. I guess before it wasn't configurable at all. Let's see, is there a PR? There's no PRs. This was a commit to master, I guess. When was this? 2016, okay. GitHub was used then, I believe. Where is the previous default max output size? Oh, maybe it wasn't configurable before. Or maybe it was not enforced before. Yeah, I don't see anything that would indicate it being checked before. Yeah, nar size limit exceeded. That's a new build status that was added in this commit. Max output size. Yeah. Okay, so we have no kind of justification for why this is necessary. Let's see, can we find anything in the issue tracker with max dash output size? Hydra occasionally waits indefinitely. Output size limit exceeded. Could that be a clue? Not really max output size. No, it's not even. There's not even mention of max output size in here. I think it's at least necessary to prevent an errant package from filling the Hydra machine's storage. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I guess you wouldn't want like a 1 terabyte package. Yeah, so we could make a case for saying that the 3 gigabyte limit was too low and we should just increase it. So maybe that would be the easiest solution here, actually. So you can make PR to the infra repo. Where is it? Infra, go to max output size. Just bump that by like double it, just double it. That would be an easy solution, and I feel like it would be okay. Or I guess maybe a better solution is to make sure these archives don't get that big. I'm not actually sure why it would be that big. Like, does it might distribute like a lot of, well, I'm now thinking of like games which reach over like 50 gigabytes or so. And if we try to build games deterministically in Nix, that would give a whole bunch more problem. Yeah, just double the limit every time. CUDA toolkit is 20 gigabytes blob by itself. Interesting. Let's see, what does it, how does that work? CUDA toolkit. CUDA toolkit default. Here it is. So this one, release URL. Are these the ones? Import releases. Hold on, what is this? Releases.CUDA version, and then it's just, okay. Maybe CUDA does what KiCad currently does, build locally when there's no limit. Oh, right. CUDA is not free, I think. Right? Yeah, licenses NVIDIA CUDA. And if the license isn't free, Hydra won't build it. Let's see, lib licenses. NVIDIA CUDA. Yeah, free false. So yeah, Hydra doesn't build that, and that's why it doesn't run into the problem. Packages 3D fails to build on Hydra and is built locally. Yeah, I think the same probably happens with CUDA here. Interesting. All right, so kind of mystery solved. I wonder if there's another way around that. Split it with the separate outputs, a bit wasteful. I wonder if there's a way to have a fetcher that only fetches like continuously unpacks and stops fetching like once it reaches a limit, and then kind of automatically splits it into multiple phases. Although that could get, no, that probably doesn't work because you need to compress it, and then once you compress it, you can't really know where the boundary should be. Sounds pretty tricky to me. Let's see, was there anything else in here? So yeah, post fetch compressing. I mean, maybe like the pinned gzip seems like a pretty good solution actually. Upstream issue about compressing the 3D models there. Yeah. Compress 3D models. Okay, well, I'm not going to read through all of that. What I'd really want is to inline the fetched source with the builder so it becomes one output that's already built. Oh, I see. Yes, I guess what you're thinking of is to have like an extra post fetch in here, which then already does like some building. The problem with that is that oftentimes these tools are not reproducible themselves. So as soon as they use some like file order or use like dev random, anything like that, and that can happen fairly easily, at that point the hash here won't really be accurate anymore, and it will get out of date. And it's like almost impossible to know when that happens. Actually, the fact that fetchers can even do that fact today is a good reason why we shouldn't even have fetchers that can execute arbitrary commands. There is actually an issue in Nix that that proposes to like remove the fixed up derivations because that is a problem, although it doesn't provide an alternative. Hold on, fixed output derivations. I think it's like a lot of downvotes because of that. Here, restrict fixed output derivations. Yeah, so like people have started using fixed output derivations to introduce large impurities, so that's fairly easy to do. And yeah, that sometimes does happen. So like fetch cargo, I believe, yeah, fetch cargo probably uses cargo. Fetch cargo, fetch cargo. Fetch cargo tarball, is it? Yeah, I think that depends on cargo underneath, yeah. And still a fixed output derivation, I believe. Is it? Yeah, it is. Yeah, so this has the slight problem that if cargo somehow happens to change how things get fetched, it suddenly all the hashes don't match anymore. And so that's kind of the reason why we might not want that. But there is no good like there's no solution here. It's just yeah, we don't really know how to do it instead. I believe you might want to read that yourself to get more context. At least in this case, it just uses gmake to copy parts of that source, and I've added compression steps to make it fit in Hydra. Right, again, with compression steps, need to really watch out so the compression doesn't change over time. So it needs to be as deterministic as possible. So ideally pin things and then right, you run into the problem of not knowing, like it being hard to test to make sure it's always the same. Yeah, but it might be possible, and that might be the best solution here, to just try to make it as reproducible as possible, pin tooling and stuff like that, and should be okay. And so with fetch zip and most of the fetchers, notably, they don't depend on much really. And well, fetch zip depends on the NAR archive, but the NAR archive format is fully specified by Nix and it's stable, so it doesn't change. And Nix also makes sure that it stays the same because it knows that changing it would invalidate like all the hashes we have out there. Yeah, and maybe something to mention as well here. If you see, so let's go to, well, I don't know. Oh yeah, we had the PyPy example. So pi, I'm actually not sure if that's how you pronounce it. But anyways, if you go in here, browse projects, let's just pick like a random one. Sure, this one. And so this also distributes archives. Let's see, download files. Yeah, tar.gz. I thought PyPy never updated these, in which case I believe even if you use fetch URL with a specific hash, it won't get out of date. And but yeah, let's look at fetch PyPy. Let's see how that does it. Oh, we are about out of time. Really briefly then, let's look into this. Fetch PyPy default. Okay, it uses fetch URL. Yeah, it uses fetch URL. It doesn't use fetch zip. So that actually the hashes that you provide here are for the tar.gz. It's not for the unpack nar. And I wanted to say something about that. But yeah, the comment was that with fetch PyPy, I seem to have hash drift especially often. That is interesting. I don't think that, well, it could be that they do update these tar archives after all, and in which case, indeed, the hash does get outdated because fetch URL is used and not fetch zip. Yeah. All right, I think we have pretty much everything covered for now. I think covered this decently well. But yeah, thanks everyone for joining, and have a nice day. See you next time.